Okay, we're back. We're live. We're at ThinkTech on Friday, ThinkTech Friday, and I'm Jay Fidell here in the studio at Pioneer Plaza. Broadcasting from downtown on KGU 760 AM, also on Spreaker, also on Ustream. You can see our site, thinktechhawaii.com, for the links to those internet streams. And we have the excitement of doing one of our long-distance shows today, because I'm really not the host. I'm here to introduce Attilia Seress from SOS Hawaii, who is the regular host of ThinkTech Friday. And he has some guests with him in California in a conference room, namely Fred Reeder, Jeremy Cook, and Gaurav Jain. And these guys are from I guess they're from this larger company involving, Nomadix and Docomo, Intertouch, and NTT. And talk about delivering internet service to hotel rooms and other institutional settings from California. So, Attilia, why don't you take it from there and introduce your guests and tell us what you're going to talk about today.
Well, thank you, Jay, for that introduction, and I appreciate our readers and our listeners tuning in and listening to our wonderful show here from Los Angeles. I'm at the headquarters, the international headquarters of Nomadix. They're a company that provides a very interesting solution to many of our hospitality locations there in Hawaii and across the world. They have solutions that are both technical in terms of physical hardware and software. And, for those of you listening, have you ever wondered how internet access works in your hotel room? I feel that internet, and I believe one of our guests here, Fred, also feels that internet is now the fourth utility in every hotel room. That means that along with your electricity, your plumbing, internet is now very important. And in this very special show, I wanted to interview the talent behind Nomadix. It's a technology company that makes all of this possible. And we're going to share their inspirational stories and share their lessons that they've learned along the way. With us here, we have Fred Reeder. He is the director here at Nomadix, and he leads the team. We have Gaurav Jain. He's the product manager for the high-speed internet access products by Nomadix and by Docomo Intertouch. And he has actually more than 13 years of experience in the software industry. He's accomplished in managing product strategy, customer satisfaction, and agile product management for various Fortune 500 companies and startups. Lastly, we have Jeremy Cook, and he's the systems pre-sales engineer. He's going to be talking tech and techno-babble during the conversation. And, he's part of the quality assurance group, and he tests the functionality and reliability of the Nomadix products. Prior to joining Nomadix, he's actually a student here from California at Loyola Marymount University, and he's an electrical engineer. So thank you all for joining us. Say hello.
You're welcome. Happy to be here, and thanks for having us on your show.
Thanks for inviting us.
Now, one thing that's great about Nomadix is it's the great American success story. It really is. It started off, Fred, why don't you give us a little bit of background about what Nomadix is and where it came from?
So Nomadix actually, it's been around for 15 years approximately, and it was founded by truly one of the fathers of the internet, Dr. Leonard Kleinrock, and the inspiration came from one of his PhD students, Dr. Joel Short. And, the vision that was developed back then was just as easy as it is to plug in and get power virtually anywhere in the world. In those days, Wi-Fi didn't exist, but the notion was that you should be able to plug in and have internet access just as easy as it was to get power. And so they developed some of this technology and evolved the business of guest and visitor-based access. And it really is the core. They had the vision, and lucky for us, they've patented most of their inventions, and it's become the foundation of our company today.
Yeah, I do see a wall of patents. It's the first thing you see when you walk into this lovely office are very impressive an even number, actually, of patents that protect your software. And so what happened with the company after you created this wonderful technology?
It really has exploded today, right? So the technology was evolved. It really is a software product. We productize it as an appliance, but it's just a way of delivering the solution. The appliance is a hardware delivery method. It allows us to control the quality of the product that runs in the field in a production environment. But the magic, the sauce that sets us apart from everybody else really is in the software, in the firmware that runs on this appliance. We've really seen an explosion in the desire and the need for guest and visitor access through this phenomenon called BYOD, bring your own device. And smart devices, smartphones, tablets, people want to be connected everywhere all the time today. And so you've seen a real desire and a need for our solutions. And business is growing. We're seeing a lot of other companies adopting our technology and similar technology into their appliances and network solutions. And today, with the explosion of Wi-Fi and the desire for bandwidth, it really is becoming something that people want everywhere all the time. Hence the thought of the fourth utility. People won't go to a hotel, for example, if you don't offer good quality internet access.
Yeah, I think that's a key differentiator, is good quality, right? It can't be poor quality, otherwise it's practically useless. It's like going to a Starbucks sometimes. Forget it. Don't even bother. Bring your own hotspot, right?
Well, there you have it. But, let's use the fourth utility analogy. Say you go into a hotel and there is no hot water or there is no electricity to turn on the light. Will you ever go back, or will you even stay? Absolutely not. And at the same level today, you have that requirement for good quality internet access.
And I can share a little thing I saw on Google+. I was looking at some of the Waikiki hotels, and some of the reviews said, I remember this one specifically, that said, this hotel, I was right next to the elevator, the toilets didn't work, it was awful, but you know what, they had really good internet, so the stay was okay. I was all right. No big deal. And you guys are making it possible, and you're a global player now. And I think the proof is in the pudding. It's not just Nomadix anymore. I saw a bunch of other company names attached to Nomadix, namely Docomo, Intertouch, and NTT, which is huge. So tell me about that. What was that process like?
It is interesting. The inventions that were evolved, and we continue to evolve and to invent. And you brought up the patent wall. Just last month, we were awarded a new patent, and we continue to innovate and invest in research and development. But what happened was a number of years ago, approximately 7 years ago, one of our largest customers, a managed services provider who provides the service to hotels, ended up buying Nomadix. And a year later, Docomo Intertouch, who was their largest competitor, ended up buying this company called Maginet. And so with it came this gem, this little jewel called Nomadix. Docomo Intertouch had a couple of years prior to that been acquired by Docomo, and of course Docomo is the largest mobile service provider in Japan, and that's of course NTT Docomo. Now NTT Docomo is owned by NTT, and NTT is owned by NTT Holdings, which is one of the top 3 largest telecommunication holding companies in the world.
this sounds to me like a success story. You've gone all the way to the top, because NTT is essentially like AT&T is in the United States for Japan.
It is indeed. From a size perspective, NTT of course dwarfs AT&T from a global holdings perspective. But you're absolutely right. It is one of the big players along the lines of AT&T. It's a very well-known brand. It's a very powerful organization. The beauty is they do let us run and operate sort of as this entrepreneurial organization, and we like to retain that culture. Again, for us, innovation is key. There are rewards, especially in the technology sector, for innovating and bringing new ideas to market.
Well, and what would you say was the single most important thing that you learned along the way? But we're going to have to...
Yeah, let's take a break, Attilia. This is a good time for a break. So we'll take a short break. This is ThinkTech Friday. Attilia Seress is in Los Angeles with Fred Reeder, Jeremy Cook, and Gaurav Jain. And we're talking about Docomo and Intertouch and Nomadix and NTT, one of the biggest telecommunications companies in the world. We'll be right back after this break. Aloha, I'm Jay Fidell. I want to tell you about our program this month. We're doing a lunch and panel program at the Plaza Club with the Hawaii Venture Capital Association and ThinkTech about China. It's Don't Be Afraid to Send Your Kid or CEO to China. Stories of daring do and of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in the People's Republic. We want to introduce you to some people who have lived in China and show you that life in China is not so bad. It's not all about corruption and environmental degradation and lack of civil or human rights. It's not like that. And we want to have them tell you their day-to-day stories about how they've lived there. So our moderator is Larry Foster. He has taught law in China, and he has been practicing law in China for a firm in Shanghai. His wife, Brenda Foster, is on the panel. She has been the president of the American Chamber of Commerce in Shanghai. We have Russell Liu. He's an attorney practicing with Shepard Mullen in Beijing for quite some time. Shackley Ruffetto, a circuit court judge from Maui, who after retiring went to China so he could teach judicial process there. And Nikki Shishido, who has worked for DBED, the Department of Business, Economic Development and Tourism of the state of Hawaii, in Beijing for some time. All these people have had the experience of living on the ground in China. We want to have them tell their stories to you. So maybe this will encourage you to send your kid or CEO to China. So if you're interested in this program, which ought to be very interesting, come down on August 22nd. You can sign up at hvca.org. I'm Jay Fidell. Mahalo. We'll see you there. We're back, we're live, we're ThinkTech. We're here on ThinkTech Friday. I'm Jay Fidell in Honolulu in the Pioneer Plaza studio, and we have Attilia Seress and three guests in Los Angeles. guests from Nomadix, Docomo, Intertouch, and the whole NTT family of internet providers there, talking about their company. Fred Reeder, Jeremy Cook, Gaurav Jain. And I wanted to pose a question to you guys, if you don't mind. And my question is, are you building internet infrastructure to cater to the model where the ultimate user has to pay to get online for the wireless? Or are you building internet infrastructure where we have ubiquitous wireless, nobody has to pay? The reason I ask you this question is it always strikes me on my phone where I have, half a dozen wireless, sources pop up, and none of them are free, and I always either am locked out or I have to pay. And it's like nobody in the world wants to provide free wireless anymore. Why can't we do that? Wouldn't it be a better world if we all had free wireless everywhere? And are you guys at Docomo, at Nomadix, and NTT for that matter, doing anything to move the needle ahead on free internet for the world? What do you think?
Well, this is Jeremy Cook, and it's really interesting you ask that because I get asked that sometimes as well. Because we actually make the device that allows the site to either charge or authenticate and to manage that user's interaction. And we actually do not push one way or the other for free or for charging. We just allow that ability to happen so that it can be managed. Unfortunately, we're in a capitalistic society, and if you're getting some sort of service, you're going to have to pay for it in some way, shape, or form. So you're going to run into the fact that the site that you're connecting to, either they're paying for it in some way to get their backbone in, and then they're going to either hand it off to you directly with a charge for your internet access, or you're going to be paying for it in some other way. Nothing really is free anymore. We'd like it to be, but unfortunately it isn't. So here at Nomadix, we create the appliance that allows people to have that ability to manage that user interaction on that end user, and then that site gets to decide, using the Nomadix, whether it's a free access or whether they're going to charge for it directly. And that's what we enable, and that's part of what we do is we allow the direct connection without any so the network adapts to the device so that you can get connected and get access without having to do anything besides connect to your wireless.
You think that's the way? You think that's the way it's going, Jeremy? I mean, it's sort of like the airline industry, where they're going to nickel and dime us for our baggage everywhere we go. And I'm thinking that, regrettably, the whole wireless, industry, if you will, the wireless provider industry, is going to charge us, on every use. And I'm hoping in the future that there emerges a model where, okay, I agree with you. Somebody has to pay for it. But I'm hoping there's a model that will emerge where I can, set up a subscription, and wherever I go, I will have, internet wireless connection without having to sign in or put my credit card down or go through hoops in order to be connected. You think you see that in the future, or are we heading only to a pay model where I have to pay everywhere I go separately?
Well, that's more on the business side, so I'll hand that back over to Fred. I was talking more on the technical side of what the Nomadix does. I'll let Fred talk to that.
Well, Jay, this is Fred Reeder here, and indeed, I think you hit the nail on the head. Some of the business models that we are seeing emerging do offer a free internet access, and businesses have figured out that it does draw customers into their property and into their facilities. The challenge that they have is with the ubiquitous use with smartphones and people wanting to be connected all the time, and how they use the internet. That's changing. People are streaming video quite a bit more, and so the need for bandwidth is doubling every year, and somebody has to pay for it. And so what we advise and what we're seeing evolve is a tiered pricing model. So at a certain bandwidth level, you get free access. If you want to stream video or have more bandwidth for, say, gaming or something, then you pay a fee for use for a certain amount of bandwidth or a certain period of time. but for basic internet use, we're seeing more and more free adoption. And Gaurav can maybe talk a little bit to some of the applications that help manage that infrastructure to drive that. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about some of the statistics and information we get from, say, big brands like Marriott.
Thank you, Fred. So we at Documented Touch, we make softwares which enable different types of bidding options. And what we are seeing in the market is a trend where most of the players are offering free internet as a basic tier and then moving towards a higher bandwidth plan which is going to be paid. We did a recent survey in the market and with most of our customers, and what we are seeing is what Fred just pointed out is in the last few years the need for the bandwidth is doubling. We are seeing lot many Apple devices and Google Android devices, and interesting fact here is 75% of these devices are streaming videos when they are going in the hospitality market, when people are going into hotels with their Apple phones, iPads, and their Android devices. 75% of these people are streaming videos, which is becoming a pain point for these hotels because they still need to pay for the bandwidth and they cannot charge their users. So most of the hotel industry is now moving towards a tiered pricing model where they offer free internet access for things like Facebook, chat, email, and they are moving towards a paid internet model when users have higher demands in terms of video streaming or using Netflix, Hulu, or doing some online gaming.
Yeah, that's why I asked my question, Gaurav, because we're in the streaming business, and we see ourselves as part of a movement, of streaming, not only video but radio, that will ultimately provide content to more people than conventional television and radio do now. And so we want to see this happen quickly. We want to see ubiquitous free wireless because that will help our model and it will help us compete with the big boys. But I talk too much. Let me turn it over to your true host, Attilia Seress. Sorry, Attilia. Thank you for the time, Attilia.
Of course, and thank you for your question. Anyone listening, if you are interested in asking our illustrious guests any questions, you can give us a ring at area code 808-296-5467. And because we are global, I do have to mention that area code again, 808-296-5467. During the first segment, we were talking about what made the Nomadix product possible. And we were discussing an entire wall of patents. Well, during the break, we discussed how those patents are really what helped the company grow. And why don't you tell me your view, Fred, on these patents and what other people who are listening who have an interesting idea, who may not have a patent yet, what they should do today.
Right, it is key. We constantly innovate, and oftentimes we have our research and development team that gets together and looks at is there a new way of doing something to solve a problem that customers pose to us or that our people see in the market. And as you said, some of your listeners may have a novel and unique idea, especially in the technology sector today. Whatever that is, try to patent it, however you use it. We happen to have excellent patent attorneys, but as a business, we're more established than the average guy is. In fact, the patent laws in the United States just changed last year, and they are more in line with the rest of the world, and today it's a first to file. So if you have an idea, work on it, file a patent. I think there are some online tools as well that can help you get started, but certainly file it as quickly as you can. Keep excellent notes. We do keep excellent notes as well. And I've got to tell you, it has really helped us to stand apart in the industry and have our brand be recognized as an innovative brand. The other piece, and we'll probably touch on this a little later, is along with the innovation and developing the business comes the branding and how people will recognize you. So we can touch on that a little bit later as well.
One thing that we're gonna put up on our Ustream for those of you who are tuned in through our internet streaming is we'll put up some pictures of the Nomadix products. The Nomadix product itself is a big green box, somewhat genius, because if it was black, it would look pretty boring. But green, it really stands out in the data center, and that was one of your big marketing.
It is a marketing ploy, and Jeremy, you've heard feedback from customers who said they could. You want to tell me?
Yeah, we've heard from customers that say if they need to go into their data center, they know all the beige and black boxes that are sitting there. But if they need to know for sure where it goes, all you got to do is, okay, go to the green box, and 2 boxes down, and this is the one you need to reboot. So it's a nice location device in your data center to know where things are at based on where that beautiful green box is that Nomadix has. I've also been able to spot the green box when you're out and about. I was at one conference, and I saw the green box in the Red Cross first responder truck.
Really?
And the only reason I knew it was there is because of the beautiful green, because you can only see through the windows. But so yeah, it's nice to be able to identify where it's at throughout the network.
Oh, Attila, that's the sound of a break coming. So we're going to take a short break. We're here with Attila Seress in California, in Los Angeles, with Fred Reeder, Jeremy Cook, and Gaurav Jain. And we'll be right back after this break, gentlemen. But I hope that when we come back, you can discuss when we will have the availability of boxes that come in pink, fuchsia, chartreuse, and lemon yellow. We'll be right back after this break.
We want to thank our underwriters.
Hawaiian Electric Company and its affiliates Maui Electric on Maui and Hawaii Electric Light Company on Hawaii Island are deeply committed to the communities they serve.
Galen Ho is a senior executive of BAE Systems, a global defense, security, and aerospace company.
The High-Tech Development Corporation, the state's leading technology agency, attached to the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism.
Castle and Cook Hawaii, with a time-honored legacy that spans more than 160 years and revolves around its mission of investing in Hawaii, creating communities, and providing for the needs of our state.
Hawaii Gas, formerly the Gas Company, a proponent of the Liquefied Natural Gas Initiative, helping Hawaii achieve its transition to clean energy and a better energy future.
Collateral Analytics, a Hawaii-based tech company empowering the real estate industry with greater and faster access to the tools and data they need to make better informed property investment decisions.
I'm Nicole Horry. Thanks so much for joining us on ThinkTech.
I'm Maria Kashem. See you next time.
We're back. We're live. We're ThinkTech on Friday. That is ThinkTech Friday with Attilia Seress in California and Los Angeles, with Fred Reeder and Jeremy Cook and Gaurav Jain. They're all from Docomo Intertouch and Nomadix, talking about wireless internet. And there's lots of new developments. And this is a great combination of companies owned by NTT, Nippon Telephone and Telegraph, one of the largest telecommunications companies in the world. So, gentlemen, Attilia, have at it.
Well, thank you, Jay. I appreciate the introduction. When we last left the conversation, we were talking about intellectual property protection, branding, and Jay requested to get the first pink box for the studio so we could give out internet to our neighbors. Is that right, Jay?
I prefer chartreuse, but, pink will be fine.
Well, to each his own, right? There you go. Well, let's talk a little bit about intellectual property protection, because I think this is a very important point. And every Hawaii business that's creating a product that's going to make a difference needs the protection. In fact, if I remember correctly, the original iPhone had over 300 patents on it when it was first released, and I think they're in the thousands by now. Right.
It is absolutely true. It's one thing to file a patent, and like Nomadix, we have over 100 patents globally filed. It is one thing, and it certainly points to an innovative company that has a lot of patents. But the counter side to it is, if you do have infringers out there, people who just steal your intellectual property and go to market without making that investment in research and development, you have to protect it. And I have to tell you, it is an expensive proposition to protect.
How so?
The process is lengthy, and the lawyers are expensive, and we unfortunately have had to take action against a number of defendants, and a process takes approximately 4 years and is quite lengthy and difficult to do. The counter side to it is if you do it properly, it does help your commercial business. And Nomadix, having followed a bit of a software model, we've approached many companies who are interested in our technology and have come to licensing arrangements. And so that is an option for somebody who does innovate, is to approach other companies who are interested in that technology and come to some kind of a licensing arrangement.
Well, that's what Google did with their Android platform, right? They created this fantastic operating system, and they decided that they wouldn't enter the hardware market as Apple did, because that was tough, and they instead approached Samsung and LG. So this is a proven model that you followed.
It is a proven model, and what's nice is Google is very clever and very smart, because the Android software was in support of their core business. And so by giving away the Android operating system, it drove many more users to their advertising platform. And that's where Google makes all their money. And so very clever. In a similar way, Nomadix enables hospitality providers or anybody who wants to provide public access. It facilitates easy access. There are 3 key patents that today are really desired and used globally. And Jeremy, maybe you could touch on the top 3 patents and the technologies that people really look for.
The 3 main patents is our dynamic address translation, or DAT. That's the plug and play. It allows for the ability of not having to change any kind of settings on an end device, and it automatically connects. You don't have to change your proxy settings. You don't have to change your IP settings. You just connect to the network, and the Nomadix device does the rest. And this is what I talked about earlier, where the network adapts to the device, and not the device adapting to the network. And then the second one is our homepage redirect, and that's what allows people to redirect a web request to a landing page or a captive portal to do terms and conditions or even allow for the charge. It basically captures that end user's device's browser so that they have to do something before they can get to the rest of the network. What's the third one?
And then
I usually use
it's the billing, right? And the ability to tap into accounting systems if the operator wants to charge. We have some patented ways of interfacing with the accounting systems for an easy charge. There are a host of additional patents, but those are the three key patents in public access that you really look at.
And so you are one of the major global players now in this arena. How do the others compare?
It is interesting. A couple of years ago, we actually surveyed our customers, and the feedback that we got from our customer base and people who use us globally were three things. And one had to do with this innovation, the fact that we continue to innovate. There are very few other players that continue to invest heavily in R&D and that continue to evolve new ideas and new technologies. And so that's one of the pillars for Nomadix is this innovation. The second one had to do with reliability. And the reliability really ties in with the branding that we talked about earlier. Having that association with your brand is very powerful and it really strengthens the brand. And so we spend a lot of time in quality control and making sure that our product is the most reliable. Some of the choices we've made in the technology that it's based on, we use a real-time operating system, an operating system that's used in the Mars rover, in the space shuttle, in medical devices, in casino slot machines, much more robust than your garden variety Linux operating system.
I find it funny that you compare the Mars rover operating system to slot machines. And I remember
they're all mission critical.
All mission critical to descent. And I remember Jeremy, he came in, we were talking earlier today, how everyone thought that these things would crash when CES came around. And sure enough, no one could take these boxes down.
Yeah,
Which is impressive, right?
Yeah, there was the CES a few years ago. There was actually a couple of hacker groups that were threatening to take down the network at CES, and the Nomadix boxes were actually installed in the conference space that was there. And because we're an appliance that acts sort of like a router and sort of like a switch and sort of like a firewall, but it isn't really any of those in and of itself, it meant that the hackers couldn't really do anything because their normal tools and ways they'd take things down wouldn't work against us. So between the ability that we put into this, because it's a real-time operating system, so it's not a standard operating system like a Linux box or a Windows box, it's just running a server, is different than anything that most of the devices out there have. You know, even on iOS these days, it's running on a Linux shell, and so you can still get in and do things to it. But because it's an embedded and it's real time, there aren't the tools that you'd have to mess with it as you would with the other devices.
Well, and the Consumer Electronics Show draws a good crowd. What was it, about 250,000 people?
Something like that last year.
Every year.
Yeah.
And they keep trying to break your stuff. But luckily, you can rest assured that the slot machines and the Mars rover will go well.
If they can handle it, we can handle it.
And of course, the third point has to do with the empowerment, and that is the solution is designed to be very flexible. We try not to mandate how people operate their business because of the technology. The technology is in support of how people want to operate their business, and that goes a long way in keeping customers loyal as well.
Well, you guys are talking about some very sophisticated boxes, and I just want to clear up one thing, if I may, Attilia, and that is, we've had a lot of news about electronic eavesdropping. We've had news about the NSA through friend Ed Snowden, about how the government likes to do surveillance through our electronic systems. And I just wonder if any of the boxes you make, any of the infrastructure you build, any of the software that you are putting in these boxes, is involved with surveillance, is involved with the NSA program on surveillance. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, we can talk about that. We don't directly interface with the NSA in any way, shape, or form. We do have some abilities to track users, mainly for reasons for DMCA violation, Digital Millennium Copyright Act.
Mm-hmm.
So if people are downloading copyrighted material and you need to determine who it is, because when they track you back from the lawyer letters, those come back all the way to your IP address.
Mm-hmm.
And so the letters from the lawyers saying this person downloaded this copyrighted material, I need to know who it was. We can track, we can determine what device was doing it. But that's all, and that's only if it's enabled. It's not enabled by default. It doesn't link back to any kind of government system.
One thing I would like to say here is that the way, the way we are, looking at how NSA and all these things about government eavesdropping is becoming a pain point for the customers, and they don't want it. Let me just say you that spending most of my life in Asia, these things, government eavesdropping, have actually held averted many of the attacks by the terrorists. Right? So it's not always a bad thing.
So it has an upside.
It has an upside.
It just needs to be managed. The reality is the technology is there. It is not turned on by default. We advise operators to wait for a warrant to do some of this tracking, but it is more of a policy issue as opposed to a technology issue.
So basically, in essence, we work with whatever are the local laws because we are a global company. And being a global company, we have to comply with local laws of, a lot of countries.
Yeah, sure.
So we just work with whatever are the local laws.
Well, good. Thank you very much, all of you, for that. I think it's time that we're going to take a short break, if you don't mind. This is ThinkTech Friday with Attilia Seress in California with his three guests, Fred Reeder, Jeremy Cook, and Gaurav Jain, talking about Docomo and Nomadix and NTT and how they provide wireless internet devices and service. We'll be right back after this break.
Hi, I'm Donna Blanchard of Kumukuhua Theater, and when I was young I used to love watching Charlie Chan movies on Family Classic TV on Sunday afternoons. Our show at Kumukuhua that runs from August 22nd through September 22nd is called Will the Real Charlie Chan Please Stand Up? It's written by Nancy P. Moss and takes place right here in Chinatown. I really hope you'll come in and watch it. You will love it. It's everything about the movies that you loved and more. Go to kumukuhua.org to get more information and your tickets. We'll see you there.
Okay, we're back. We're live. We're at ThinkTech Friday. I'm Jay Fidell, and we're doing this transcontinental hookup here with Attila Seress, our host in California, with his guests, Fred Reeder, Jeremy Cook, and Gaurav Jain. We're having a very interesting conversation about internet wireless and the devices and clever patents that are behind it. Take over, Attila, and close the show now.
Yes, sir. You got it, Jay. Well, in this last segment, we'd like to talk about kind of where the industry is going, take everyone's view from 30,000 feet looking down, looking 5 years into the future. But part of it is I really wanted to make sure we have some time to go through some of the local lessons, or the lessons that you can share with local companies who are technology startups. And in Hawaii, there are a few startup incubators and accelerators. They try to get a product created and invested in a very short period of time. Now, you've been through this process, and so in addition to sharing maybe some of the ideas you have for the future, maybe if you could share some of the stories and some of the things that some of the advice you'd love to give yourself 10 years ago when this company was still in its infancy.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I would say here is, as a company, as a local company in Hawaii, do what we did. Always look at what your customer wants, get in their shoes, understand what they want, and give it to them. I mean, for example, when we started with the HSI products, figured out that, in the hospitality industry, top 3 things which people want when they go to a hotel or when they select a hotel, they want free parking, they want free breakfast, and they want free internet.
Free parking, breakfast, and internet.
Yeah. And
so don't worry about the clean sheets.
Right. So we started to look at the third thing, the free internet, and making sure that they have good internet experience. So, and that is something which made us successful. So always look at what your customers want, what they need, and get in their shoes to understand what their needs are.
And so that's really helped. And you mentioned, Fred, that one of the key differentiators of Nomadix is that the continued reinvestment in the research and development.
Right.
So what kind of cool things can we expect on our Mars rovers and our casinos that might involve your product?
Well, I'll tell you, and we do keep up with the market, and there's some really cool trends that I'm keeping an eye on. And, maybe we can talk a little bit about some of those. Certainly, social media integration is huge, and facilitating that to grow the business. How do you grow your commercial enterprise utilizing social media and tying it in? How can you monitor customers' behavior through the service that's provided in the internet access? Data mining is a huge trend that some of the larger companies have. It is becoming more and more available to smaller players as well. And the tools to actually analyze specifically what does your customer want, how do they behave, and trying to predict how you can grow your business. That is another trend. Certainly, we're starting to build in some of those data gathering and analytics capabilities into some of our, not only our appliance, but some of the applications like the Docomo InterTouch Freedom application that allows customers to better understand their guests and their visitors.
So what would an experience be like for someone a few years from now walking into, say, a national chain? They turn on their smart crystal phone, flexible phone, which I want to get a flexible phone so bad, but a nice flexible phone. They turn on the Wi-Fi, and all of a sudden maybe they're greeted.
It is
in a different way.
Yep, indeed. So today we've already seen some early deployments and some prototype deployments where through your smart device, whether it's a tablet or a smartphone, the owner of the property is aware that you're coming.
Really?
That you're in the property. They can actually track you where you are in the property. A good example is to actually give privilege treatment to your best customers. So let's use an example of a casino. You know, you want to know where your high roller is every moment of the day. Where are they? If they're at the swimming pool, go and give them special treatment. If they're not in the casino, why are they not in the casino? And how can we give them an outstanding experience so they keep coming back as your high roller? That is already an ability that we see today. Some of the other trends that we see is self-service through smartphones, where you can not only book your room, but you get the key, the ability to open your door, download it on your smartphone, and you just go to the door, and the door, unique code on your door has the ability to open up the door. Once you've checked into the hotel and associated your smartphone, you can set the environmentals in your room. The temperature can be set, and it recognizes that Attilia Seress is in the room, and Attilia likes his room at 72 degrees. And so as you come into the room, through your loyalty program, for example, they track this information, and they automatically set the room to 72 degrees. They know what your favorite TV channels are, and they prioritize those as the top channels on the TV, and your smartphone becomes the remote control.
Really?
That ability is here today. It hasn't found broad adoption yet, but it will in the next 2 to 5 years.
What's also considered green tech. I was actually speaking with someone who was developing this kind of stuff, and that's exactly it. It ties in your smartphone, but it also ties in the electronic consumption, the electrical consumption.
Yes.
So imagine how much money a hotel saves by not having to turn on or leave on all the lights all the time in the hotel room, or you're walking into your hotel room stumbling trying to find the light switch. Instead, when you get close to your hotel room, the door unlocks, the lights turn on, your favorite station, of course, Bloomberg, comes on, and the AC goes exactly to the way you like it. I think that's a fantastic future we can look forward to.
And that is coming. It is definitely coming. Docomo Intertouch has made an investment, and they've deployed some beta hotels with those type of solutions. You know, Jay mentioned earlier, what advice do I have for your listeners? Look for a big trend. Look for the mega trend. And certainly, internet access isn't something new, but the explosion of internet access leaves tremendous opportunity for players out there. There are many businesses in the Hawaiian Islands that can maybe deploy one of our little hotspot in a box and create a network of providers that customers can roam across, right? A lot of tourists, for example, have no qualms paying a little bit for internet access so they can make Skype calls. With Skype, you know, a typical mobile phone call is extremely expensive, so they don't blink an eye to pay a little bit for internet access so they can call home through Skype, as an example. So therein lie opportunities. This location awareness, the ability to know where they are in your facility, and maybe you can offer up a coupon and a discount to entice them to buy from the local coffee shop or the restaurant or the gift shop. Those are all great opportunities that really haven't been fully tapped yet.
Well, and of course, 802.11u is coming out, so that instead of making your calls using the cell phone network, you can use the Wi-Fi instead. Offload some of that traffic.
Indeed.
I mean, wouldn't that be great for someone coming in from out of town?
Speaking of which, we're out of time, you guys. I want to say next time we do this show, we have to do it here, and you all have to be here. Fred Reeder, Jeremy Cook, and Gaurav Jain, thank you so much. Thank you, Attilia. It's been a great discussion. We're going to have Mufi Henneman on the air at 2 p.m. on Monday. Aloha. Have a nice weekend. Thank you very much, guys.